Chapter 9. Breaking News. Verona didn't have normal friends. Her best friend was her brother Lincoln. But a close second was a Sir. Verona would regularly visit the older gentleman next door and would sometimes bring along Lincoln. She would help him with the dishes or some random tasks around the house, and then they would just sit and talk or hang out without saying a word. Her visits were never super exciting, but she enjoyed them just the same, because no matter how hectic or stressful her day was, Verona always felt at ease and at peace at a Sir's place. It was true that Verona enjoyed a Sir's company, but she also visited so often because she wanted to be there for him. Although he rarely spoke of his family, a Sir had mentioned he had a daughter. Verona had never seen pictures of his family, or had known them to visit, and Verona could sense his sadness. A Sir doted on her, and she enjoyed the attention, but more so felt good about helping a Sir not be so lonely. Today was Saturday, the day after the last day of school. Phil and Jillian told the kids that they needed to run some errands, so Verona was told to babysit Lincoln. But truthfully, a Sir was unwittingly the real babysitter. This arrangement never really bothered a Sir, though, because he never really had anything else to do, and he liked having the kids over for visits. It was another hot day, and it was even hotter at a Sir's place. The old man rarely had the air conditioning running, and of course, the fire was still roaring as usual. A Sir never seemed to notice the heat, and he didn't notice it today either. He was still wearing his usual sweater over his chevar camise. Verona usually tried not to interfere with how a Sir liked to keep the conditions in his own home, but today was exceptionally hot, and she couldn't understand how a Sir could possibly be wearing a sweater, so Verona spoke up. When the 12-year-old told her neighbor that it was stifling in his house, a Sir looked at the two sweating children and asked, "Is it?" Then he smiled and added, "I'm sorry. I'm actually very comfortable, but I wish to be a good host, so I'm sure there is something that can be done." A Sir then allowed the children to open the windows and bring a fan over from their house to sit in front of during their stay. It was a quiet visit. Lincoln was listening to his iPod and playing with the toy truck he brought with him, while Verona was making funny noises in the fan. Verona was disguising her voice to sound like Darth Vader and quoting lines from her favorite movie, The Empire Strikes Back. She was replacing the name Luke with Lincoln. "Lincoln, you do not know the power of the dark side. Join me, and together we can rule the galaxy." The Sir was poking at his fire, and frowned when Verona said this. He had never seen the Star Wars movies, but he was not familiar with the stories. Nevertheless, he did not like the thought of Verona and Lincoln joining the dark side. Then, a breaking news story was broadcast across the room from the television that nobody had been paying attention to. 3 people hospitalized after what appears to be wild dog attacks. We're going to take it to Abigail Garcia, who is with one of the victims. Abigail? Thank you, Jessica. I'm in Naperville, standing outside of Edwards Hospital with Merwin McAllister, who has just been released after having been treated for wounds he suffered late last night during an apparent wild animal attack. Mr. McAllister, how are you feeling? The middle-aged man just stared into the camera. The reporter awkwardly again asked, "How are you feeling? Can you tell us what happened?" Hello? Okay, yeah, sure. I'm a little sore, but feeling okay, I guess. Am I going to be on TV? Abigail nodded and said, "We're live." Well, okay. I was watching the Cubs game at my neighbor's house, see? Well, it ended. The Cubs won. Go Cubbies! And, anyway, I started walking home. I walked through his backyard, which connects to mine, but before I got to my yard, something large jumped out of the shadows of the tree line at me, gouged my arm with its claws and tried to bite me. But I was able to fight it off with a bottle I was carrying, and it ran away, but it got me pretty good." "Did you get a good look at it?" asked the reporter. "It all happened pretty quick, and it was dark out and all, but my eyes had adjusted, and yeah, I guess I got a good look. I've never seen anything like it. That dog must have been almost 7 feet tall. It was humongous." The news reporter's eyes widened, and her jaw dropped a bit, and then she gave the man an incredulous look. 7 feet tall? Are you sure it was a dog?" He furrowed his considerable eyebrows and looked down. "Kinda," the man hesitated. "It actually looked more like a wolf. Yeah, I would say it was more like a wolf. But..." "But what?" the reporter prompted. "But, I mean, this is going to sound crazy, but I swear, I thought I saw human legs." "Human legs?" Abigail gasped. "Yeah, so I guess it was like a half-man and half-wolf creature." The man looked away, as if he didn't believe it himself, and couldn't believe he was actually saying this on live television. He appeared to immediately regret it. Abigail stood silently for a few moments before snapping out of it. Turning back towards the camera, she sarcastically stated, "Well, there you have it. Be on the lookout for 7-foot-tall werewolves in the Chicago suburbs. This is Abigail Garcia reporting from Edwards Hospital. Back to you, Jessica and Bruce." "Well, I bet I can guess what was in that bottle he was carrying," the other anchorman chuckled. Jessica composed herself and continued, "Sounds a bit sensational, but animal control is looking into the situation, and authorities are advising people to be on alert and to report any strange animal sightings." Due to his music, Lincoln most likely didn't hear the report and never even looked up from his truck, but Verona noticed Sir's attention turned away from the fire and towards the television. She saw what she thought was a look of concern, and maybe even a slight look of recognition come over his face. After the report, the weatherman warned of storms coming to the area. Just then, the fire gave a loud crack, breaking Sir's gaze and returning it to his fire. Verona stared at Sir a little while longer, then resumed playing with the fan until her parents came home. About an hour later, Jillian knocked on the door, and Verona answered. Jillian thanked her neighbor and tapped Lincoln on his shoulder to get his attention. They all said their goodbyes. As the kids were walking out, Sir moved away from the fire. "Verona," Sir called out, "be careful out there." Verona had never heard Sir say anything like that before. Verona could sense that Sir was troubled about something, so she just nodded, trying to assure him that she would be careful. Verona walked out, carrying the fan with one hand and closing the door behind her with the other.